Okay, well, the stream is live now, so hello everyone. Sorry for the kind of shaky start. As I was just saying, it's been a while. Everyone's kind of forgotten what they're doing, but new look, new format, new start. Hopefully, nice. It will be serious. Seems like we've already failed on that.
Enough.
But let's just get into it. So, welcome back. Kata, we've got Com, we've got Rabbit, we've got Link, we've got Rook.
Hello.
Hi, Kata. We've really trimmed down those introductions.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to introduce yourselves if you want to.
We have to be fast, we have to be efficient, we have to get in budget.
That's what we gotta stick to it.
And that's the stream, boys.
It's going crazy.
So we have
and
Kata.
that's all we have time for the budget. See you later, guys.
We have Kata, team artist, Com, project lead, Rabbit, animator, Link, who's our community manager and mod, and Rook, who's our lovely Neptune VA and mod, and Neptune, who's we're going to be focusing on today. So that's really cool. So I hope everyone's excited. I will run through what we're going to do today. As I've already mentioned, we're going to do the main segment this week will be about Neptune. We've got a little bit of news this week from the team and stuff. We have book club running today, so we're going to be talking about some of our favourite books and recommending them. A new segment which I've introduced called Trotting, which I'll explain later. And then a little segment about simple things you can do to protect the Earth, which this week is on bees. Which probably wasn't probably wasn't the best one to start with if we're trying to be serious. But you know, you've got to have a little bit of fun in life, haven't you?
Like smooth.
And that's
Don't
it.
talk over Flower, guys.
So
you?
Without much more of that, let's move into what we've done this week. So this week in the team, there's actually been quite a lot of music production going on, which is exciting. We've got some bits and pieces coming together for the OST track, and as team music is usually desolate, it's actually quite exciting to see a lot of things in there, which is really fun. Then there's also been animation and stuff being put together, and it's all exciting. So again, so many things that we can't really tell you about, but there's a few things that we can. I've been finalising some Meet the Team cards, as I'm sure a few of you in voice chat have probably heard me talking about. So you can finally get to know all those random facts and favourites about the team members that you love and hate and whatever. I don't know if you really like us or not, or if you just follow us because you want us to fail. But
I'm sad face.
you know, I don't know what goes through some of you's heads, but that's going to be cool. That will be the next couple of weeks. And the other thing is we have to legally, by law, ask Com where Timmy is.
The answer to where Timmy is no. And can we move on?
Yes, we can.
Where'd you come from? Where'd you go? Where'd you come from? Call Timmy.
Okay, so
everybody asks where Timmy is. Nobody asks when Timmy is.
How
I think
is
that's
Timmy?
the real question.
Nobody asks how Timmy is.
No, nobody cares how Timmy is. It's just
I do.
Has anybody done anything exceptional this week they want to talk about quickly?
Did you know about my character art request form pinned in grade?
Kata.
Self-advertising.
False advertising, I still haven't gotten mine.
I mean, it's not exactly production related, but I drew a bunch of pictures of the planets dabbing.
Oh yeah, that was really cool. Com's been practicing his shapes and stuff just to see what comes faster, the keyframes coming in from the actual animators or Com learning to draw and then doing them himself.
And for those of you who don't know,
dabbing is the most dynamic pose you can draw.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes,
I still gotta work on that.
Me learning to draw is going to take a long time, so it's going to be a race.
We've upgraded.
One of them will happen between now and the heat death of the universe. We're just not sure which.
Welcome, Com, my new keyframe animator.
Eventually.
Yeah, welcome to the team. Hope you have fun.
Welcome to the team.
Thanks, guys. I feel very welcome on this team, but I have not been on the past 7 months.
What have you been doing, you lazy bum?
Yeah, damn it.
I've just been sitting around telling other people what to do. It's the good life.
Yeah, that's what boss is, mate.
Well then, on to some other news from this week. There's been quite a lot of astronomy going on this week around the world. So first of all, I'm sure you've all seen in Space Discussions, they discovered some liquid water on Mars, or they have discovered evidence of liquid water on Mars. So just to catch you up if you haven't heard about it, it's they think it will be a lake under the south pole of Mars, so under the already what we know is ice cap.
Under the sea.
It's under land, though.
It's
not.
Under the Mars.
So Mars, as we were Mars previously, we knew had solid like water ice caps on each pole, but they think they've discovered a liquid lake under one of those at the south pole. It's about 20 kilometers across, so not massive, but quite big. And it was found using the radar on the Mars orbiter, which is European Space Agency Mars probe, which orbits the surface and zaps Mars periodically. And they found water, or they think they found water, which is quite cool. There's some other Mars news this week as well. As you may have seen, Solar Sailor's little post about it on Reddit, and he used our character art and asked very nicely for it, which is very sweet. Mars and the Sun were in opposition on Friday, which meant that Mars was very big and very bright in the sky, just due to the directness of the light coming around the Earth from the Sun, bouncing off Mars and coming back to us, which meant it was in prime position for pictures and looking at it through a telescope. And it's also very, very close in orbit, I believe, today on Sunday. So it was actually a very good opposition, because not only was it in opposition, it was also very close to the Earth, making it even brighter and bigger than a normal opposition. So if anybody wants to look for Mars tonight is still a good night to look for Mars and see the red colour in the sky. Talking about red colours in the sky, here in the UK and elsewhere in the world, we had a blood moon on Friday, or a lunar eclipse, which was not visible here because we had clouds, but whatever. Well, it wasn't.
It's hard to see through those clouds.
I
hope
tried.
we can get rid of them.
I have never actually managed to see a lunar eclipse, despite trying to see about 15 of them, because it's always cloudy.
We actually had really good weather to see it in Australia and Melbourne.
Oh,
But I was slipped for
lucky.
Aussie ran me like 3 hours before it happened, woke me up. I fell back to sleep and had to wake up by myself to look at it.
Well, I mean, you
had
managed
like
to.
I had 3 missed calls by Aussie. We're just trying to get in contact.
Well, I mean,
with me.
it was very, very cool event. Like, I think solar eclipses are like wow, and then everybody forgets about lunar eclipses, but I think it's just spooky. It's like blood in the sky. So just a little bit of science to go with it. The reason why the moon appears red in a lunar eclipse is because the moon is in the Earth's shadow from the sun, so the Earth is blocking the light from the sun getting to the moon. But instead of blocking it totally, because Earth has like this atmosphere, obviously what happens is the light does still reach the moon through the atmosphere and then back to us. But because it's already gone through the atmosphere, the light is refracted in the particles in the atmosphere, and so that changes the colour of the spectrum. So instead of being like its normal kind of white colour, it ends up being red.
It's just a bunch of
science stuff.
Science! And to finish off astronomy news for this week, on Wednesday, Venus is like just above the horizon, visible above trees after sunset, and is in a really good position with the sun at the moment to be seen as well. So if you want to do some astronomy this week, Wednesday evening, just after sunset, look out for Venus.
Excellent.
Sunset.
Nice.
I will have to leave my house on Monday.
Oh, how terrible.
I just won't go outside and won't look at anything because I'm boring.
It's been a while since I've had to walk home during sunset, so I haven't actually been able to see Venus lately.
Well, it's sometimes just nice to go outside and look at the sky and remember where we are in the universe. Anyway.
For sure.
Best thing to do is sit under the stars and listen to Comms More Than a Feeling.
Oh.
True.
Hold on, let me just grab
You know
that.
it is.
A cat and
More Than a Feeling by
We are-
Tony Unknown.
We are going to
Yeah,
move
no.
on now to
Yeah.
Neptune for the week. So slightly further
Okay.
afield. This time, instead of me speaking for ages and ages, I have asked everyone.
No, we insist.
Everyone,
You're the host after all.
everyone has done their own little bit of research on a specified topic, but I will do a little introduction to our specific
Can we
character.
put research in big quotes? Because I don't think any of us actually had to do a lot of work to get this stuff.
I did it 5 minutes ago.
Well, I mean, if everybody, the thing is, there's-
research in quotes.
Come
There's-
on, guys.
there's 6 of us, so if we split it up, it only takes a little while instead of taking me half an hour, which is lovely. But anyway, welcome to Neptune. I have the design here, which
Welcome to Neptune. It's a gas.
is not the final design. This is just our design currently. So all of this is subject to change, but just to help you picture him while we talk about the character, here is the design for now as I introduce him.
I believe
So
yesterday, right?
yeah, only yesterday, so just in time. But yeah, this isn't final or anything.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Rook,
An amazing
the
job.
speaking there, is our Neptune voice actor, who we'll be talking to a little bit later. But in general, Neptune is our lovable, happy-go-lucky, clueless swimmer character. He's kind of tall. He's really sweet. He's good friends with Mercury, and he swims.
Very good friends.
He's got a lot of energy, and he's very optimistic. So, just an overall lovely character. And
Yes, Neptune is a dude. Not all of our characters are
Yeah.
females.
Yes, mate. If you can tell by my voice, I am a dude. I'm pretty
You
sure
are?
about that one, mate. I
This
think
is
so.
news.
I'm
This is
pretty
news
sure.
to me.
Same, to be honest.
so, Kata, do you want to start us off with your facts?
Oh, okay. Hold on, let me just pull up my notepad. So introductions. Neptune is an ice giant, if you didn't know that. But he does have a rock core the size of Earth. Although its ice is mostly made of... No, the surface is mostly made out of ice. Sorry about that. Similar to Earth, Neptune is blue because of the methane in its atmosphere. No? And its atmosphere is mainly made out of hydrogen, helium, and also methane, as mentioned earlier. Like Uranus, it rains diamonds on Neptune due to extreme pressure and temperature. Neptune remains as the farthest planet from the Sun. This title would usually go to Pluto, but since Pluto isn't a planet, Neptune is the farthest.
Ooh, snap.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Shots fired. We're
Nah.
calling you out. Oh, well.
Palmea is.
Yeah, let's move on before Uwu gets really, really mad at us. Thank you for that, Kata. So
She'll
just
just drop in and be like, ah!
some general facts about Neptune. It's cool. I believe Neptune is also the densest planet, hence
Yes.
why we
I think
have
so, yeah.
Neptune is kind of socially clueless.
I thought you were about to say,
Voice
that's
acting.
why Rook is playing.
yeah. Hence why I'm voice acting him.
Bless.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry,
So Rabbit, you're in here. Do you want to talk about mythology of Neptune, where the
All
name
right.
comes from?
Yeah, so Neptune, obviously, Neptune was not one of the original classical planets, and actually is the only one among the 8 currently accepted by the IAU planets that was not visible at all to the naked eye. Even Uranus can be seen by the naked eye. It's incredibly dim and really hard to see, but you could see it. It's just that, since it's so slow moving that, it's kind of hard to discover as a planet. But Neptune, is not visible to the human eye at all. So, unlike the rest of them, the mythology of Neptune as the god of water in ancient Rome is not really related to the planet itself. The planet's name was given much later. But Neptune, as I mentioned, is named for the god of water, god of the seas. Actually, interestingly enough, last Monday was Neptunalia. So the celebration of Neptune as a water god in ancient Rome. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Cool.
It's thought that Neptune's origination as a god of water is basically because it gets so hot in summer, and so everybody's like, "Oh, we gotta get water," and that's that.
Gotta get water, gotta stay hydrated, kids.
Yeah,
Yep, stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated, everyone. Interesting.
Otherwise, you get cramps.
It's really
Hydration is
cool.
important.
We should probably look out for more of those god festivals because we missed having a day about Neptune. It's kind of sad. Well, thank you for that, Rabbit.
Exactly. If I had known last week, I would be like, "Yo, Neptunalia."
Yeah. Maybe someone should make a calendar.
Research 5 minutes ago.
Anyway,
We'll do something for Saturn in December.
Cool. Saturn in December? That's cool.
Yep.
We'll throw frisbees.
We'll have a meet-up and just chuck
Cross-continent.
frisbees at each other. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cross-continent frisbee.
Ooh.
Link, I believe I asked you to talk about some space probes.
Yeah, believe it or not, there's actually not much to talk about. As of right now, there's only one probe that's actually made it out to Neptune, and that has been Voyager 2. Happened in 1989. It got the first images, close-up images of the Neptunian system. In 6 minutes for the signals from Voyager 2 to get back to Earth. And believe it or not, I had it a second here.
But wait, this.
Oh yeah. So, back to go. Awesome.
Believe it or not.
Oh no.
Did you delete it?
I found it. So there wasn't actually there was not much known about Neptune until the Voyager spacecraft flyby in 1989.
All right.
Not much to talk about.
Yeah, no,
Neptune
Neptune hasn't been visited that much. But
Yeah, unfortunately.
the Voyager spacecraft are really cool to research. One of my favorite. They are the ones with the man with the circles, and also the golden record. If anyone's heard of the golden record, which is
yes.
It's actually got a really interesting story behind it. If I'll just do a little detour. It was put together by a man and a woman who'd never met each other before they started working on it. I think one was a scientist and one was a musician, and they were just and they started off by thinking of pieces of music, and they tried to do them from different cultures, and they thought, well, we'll have children around the world saying hello, so we have all the different languages. And then basically the more they worked on the project, the more they spent time together, they ended up actually falling in love. And one of the last things that they put on the track was their brain waves and their hearts as they thought about what it meant to love someone, because they decided that was one of the biggest things that humanity had. So it's really, really sweet.
For a second, I thought you were talking about this song from It's a Small World, and I got very confused.
No. No, I'm just talking about a real life love story. So their love is forever embodied in this record on the side of Voyagers, which I think is really sweet.
Cute.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for that, Link.
Show Mercury and Neptune have a similar relationship.
So Fortnite unfortunately wasn't able to be here today, so I have done one of the research little segments, but that's alright. So I just wanted to talk briefly about Neptune's discovery. So basically what happened with Neptune, as Rabbit was mentioning earlier, it wasn't one of the classical planets, it wasn't visible. But once William Herschel had discovered Uranus, and people were like, oh wow, it's not a comet, it's a planet, that's quite cool. And then they started
Planet George.
looking into it. some different, I think about in the early 1800s, people were like charting Uranus, and they made these tables of the orbit. And then with all this new Newtonian physics, people started like using his gravitational equations to try and like draw out the exact ellipse of the orbit. And as they were trying to do this, and all the calculations, they realised they couldn't draw a perfect eclipse with all of the calculations they had. There was just undoubtedly some irregularities in Uranus's orbit, which were obviously theorised to be caused by this new planet, Neptune, because there needed to be basically a mass that was interfering with the orbit. And multiple scientists came to the same conclusion, like without talking to each other around the world, a French guy and 2 American guys, I think. And they kind of talked about it in the end, because they all went to science like conventions, and they were really excited, and then ended up going, oh, we came to the same conclusion. And they all talked about it, cross-referred their data, checked some of the equations, and came up with like the most accurate way they had. And the data ended up being sent to Britain, and within an hour of the data reaching the guy who was going to look for it, he found the planet, and only a degree out from where it was predicted to be. So the predictions were incredibly accurate and really easy to follow, because it only took him an hour, which I think is really cool. So Neptune was entirely found basically because of mathematics and because of Newton and his gravity stuff. And Neptune was discovered in 1846.
Wow.
Interesting fact mode.
Cool.
Ceres was discovered first.
Ceres is
I'm
Rabbit's
still
favourite planet.
holding out a candle for Ceres.
Ah, bless you. Well, that's all the kind of factual stuff about Neptune. So let's move on to his character and stuff. So,
Factual.
I will pull up some of the concept designs that we had for Neptune. So these aren't at all reflective of the character. These are just the original bits of art, so you can see our kind of process going through him. So if I take down the design, I have 3 concept ones. The first one, I believe, is by Incog, a team musician. That's the one in the pencil drawing. Then we have a lot of different headshots by D-Pad, and then
What is that? Ponytails.
Yes, then we have the third one by Neko with the ponytail. So the main thing about the Neptune design was to ponytail or not to ponytail, because a lot of us felt that the ponytail fitted the character, but as Rook will explain.
Don't get me bloody started.
Yeah, we had very, very significant. Rook was not okay with that.
Yeah.
To put it lightly.
And that's why I didn't work on Neptune.
You're sure if you were.
Yeah,
it's also a little insight into our design process. Sorry, Flower, for hijacking your segment a little bit. None of the artists like working on the male characters.
It took Neptune so long to get done.
Yeah, it took us a while to do Uranus because, like, we had too many hairstyles for her. And then when it came to Neptune, it took even longer because we had, like, 1 piece of art a week. Like, when we were doing, like, Mars and Venus and all the others, we had, like, 6, 7 pieces of art every day. And then it just came to Neptune, and it was just like, no one wants to draw the males. And it was good with Saturn because D-Pad and I had, like, separately came up with the same idea, and so it didn't take very long because we were like, yeah, we're doing this, okay, cool, fine. But with Neptune, it was like, what are we doing? And so everyone tried to give him a ponytail to make him more feminine, so they wanted to draw him. But, yeah.
That's why Mercury is a trap.
Mercury is not a trap.
Wrong.
Let's not even get into this. Let's do this next week.
For next time.
Okay? It's Neptune.
Yes.
So, Com, did you want to talk through his character a bit?
Sure. All right. So, now away from the actual facts and to the part where I took those facts and completely ignored half of them and designed a character.
Yay.
So, let's get started. So Neptune is overall, his main character traits are cluelessness, athleticism, and just being the biggest Aussie bro.
Yeah, I wonder where we got that inspiration from.
Definitely not
kind
from
of
Ross Kamos.
It's sort of the direction that I was leaning in for him anyway, because we needed sort of a fun, dense, happy character, comic relief kind of a thing. But he's very friendly, very carefree. He can get along with just about anyone, but he just misinterprets social things quite often. He has no idea that Venus has a crush on him, even though it's very, very obvious to the rest of anyone. There's no... For anyone who's wondering about the Venus-Neptune thing, there's no scientific fact that I can think of to justify this. I just think it's...
I think it's more that we have a dense planet. We have a very socially clueless planet, and we have a planet who we decided is tsundere because of the atmosphere, and so they work well together.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, Venus and Neptune is not canon because it's Mercury and Neptune. Thank you very much.
Oh, mate, calm down.
In depth when it comes to the shipping of planetary beings.
Yes. We spend more time shipping the
Tell you
planets.
depth. It's quite
Doing
highbrow.
anything else?
I
Yeah.
haven't had work in 5 weeks. Give me this.
I thought it was Saturn next Neptune. Oh well.
Hey, you ship whoever you want, my dudes.
You're saying that to the team
Mercury is
artists?
not a trap. Alright.
Someone in a Twitch chat says Earth shipped giant meteor.
Oof.
No.
I think we're
Last time
saving that
that
one for
happened-
season 2.
Please,
Last time
Obviously,
that
we're
ship
going
went
to
through
ship.
please
Last time
save
that
my
ship went
face.
through, the dinosaurs went away. I don't know if we want to do it again.
Well, obviously,
Poor
we're going to ship
dinosaurs.
Earth with Uranus because that's where all the rest of the gods came from.
What?
Mythologically.
Yeah, mythologically Gaia
Uh,
and Uranus.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
See, this is what happens when you have smart people on the team. Everyone else gets lost.
Who hired this guy?
Smart people? Who's the smart people?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
the voice actor.
Anyway, back
I'm
to
just-
Tom.
Holy voice actor, leave me alone. All
And
right.
then Venus came from, well, somebody chopped off Uranus' nuts and threw them in the
Wait,
ocean.
what?
There's Venus.
Oh.
Anyway,
Yeah,
moving
well,
on from that. Moving on from that bit of mythology.
Just try and see ourselves back on topic.
Yes. So, as I mentioned earlier, Neptune, the character, is quite athletic. He is, in fact, a swimmer and on the swim team for the high school that they all attend. The reasoning for him being like a swimmer athlete is Neptune being the god of the ocean, him swimming, makes sense. Other than just doing athletic things, he also enjoys sort of going out,
Beer.
seeing the world, hiking, camping. And sort of the justification for that is that Neptune is the furthest out. They cover the most. Their planet covers the most area of all 8 planets, so makes sense that you would go out and see the rest of the world that the other planets might not.
An explorer of sorts. That's cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
Neptune he's a child at heart and is not afraid to take on a challenge, no matter what it is, and he will always try his best to accomplish it, even if he may not be able to. But he is also a team player. Even though he's dense and a slow learner, he will always try and help others out. Again, not a lot of super justification for that, but that is just part of his character that's quite important. The other planets rarely see him as being serious or taking anything with like the right or a super studious attitude. just because he doesn't get the best grades and doesn't do the best in school, but he does try his hardest to do what he likes to do. Appearance and height-wise, as you can see, that's sort of the semi-final design we're running with at the moment. It's not completely final, but that's overall mostly what he's going to look like. Height-wise, he's probably going to be around the same height as Uranus, because they're similar in size, and that is going to be taller than Earth and the rocky planets, but shorter than Jupiter, Saturn, Sun, say.
Taller than Pluto.
Taller than Pluto, for sure.
Everyone is taller than Pluto.
Even Luna is probably
The
taller
moon
than
is taller than
Pluto.
Pluto. Watching this right now, so
Not Carrie's. Candle. Candle on a cereal box. Yes, it's pronounced Carrie's, even though Ceres would make more sense with cereal.
No one
I don't
cares
know.
about your Carrie's fetish.
Anyway, that's all I have for character traits and inspiration right now.
I just wanted to say like one thing I was going to say about the character design. On as you can see, his hair has like two different designs. Like on the left and on most of it, he has this kind of neat with a little criff at the front, and it's really cute. And then on the right, there's just like this random kind of messy, fluffy hair look. And our idea behind that was because we were like kind of struggling with the hairstyle. And we decided that because of his kind of clueless nature, basically what he does with his hair is he spends ages doing it in the morning because he wants to look really cute, and so that's how it ends up. But as soon as he gets in the swimming pool, it just pings back into a really messy state. So, and he gets really annoyed with it because it never looks neat, and he never really knows what to do with it. But he always forgets that he's going to go swimming later. So that was our kind of reasoning
Yes,
behind the
thank
two
you.
different hairstyles, which I think is really cute actually, just to have him the characters might be out walking one time and it starts raining and he just gets grumpy and no one knows why, and then a few seconds later his hair just goes boop and it just pings back into its normal position. Just stuff like that. He's a really cool character, I think, Neptune. I think he's one of those characters that isn't like that many people's favourites, but everyone will like because he's just so sweet and
Yeah.
just a lovable little man. So if I find my notebook, which I accidentally buried a second ago. Yeah, that is apart from interviewing Rook, which I will do now, about his voice actor process. So Rook, as you know, is Australian and
Yeah.
Hell yeah, mate.
is
Love
the voice
Let's
actor
go to the
for
chase, Rook.
Neptune. And so some of
When was the last time you slept in me?
some of Neptune's kind of louder, happy-go-lucky bits are from Rook because he's the smiliest, happiest drunk there is.
Thank you. I'll
Happy
take that as a
bear.
compliment, I guess.
Yeah,
Very happy.
Rook is a Care Bear.
he's big. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Rook is like the big cuddly bear of the team. He always looks out for everyone and just really sweet. So we're glad to have you around. So
Thank you.
You buddy cunt.
what kind of
Fuck
things?
off.
What kind of things do you think about when you're like trying to get into the Neptune character? I know you haven't really done that
Yeah.
many voice acting yet, but like what kind of things do you do or are you planning to do to like create his voice?
Well, with Neptune, it's for me to get into his sort of mood. I find it's more natural since I do relate to Neptune a lot as a character and personally. But to get into his whole sort of character, I just try to think of myself as myself, but a lot more blunt and a lot more stupid. So I keep the whole really happy-go-lucky, all like really energetic, happy, and all that, but I remain absolutely clueless about nearly anything, and just blunt about, again, anything. So I'll act really shocked at a lot of things that maybe people will say. Just act shocked because I don't really know what they mean by what they're saying. Like, so with Venus being all soon, I have no idea what the hell she's talking about. All I know is that she's being mean to me. Have no idea why, but I still try to be nice to her.
It's not that I like you or anything, Baka. Baka Taco.
So, what kind of like, what other than obviously the ponytail, which is quite an obvious one for you, what kind of things did you like really like about the Neptune character when you were first assigned him, and was there anything else other than the ponytail that you disliked originally? Or
Well, Neptune, I am never really in any of the team chats, and I'm never really involved with many of the other team discussions, but when it came to Neptune's week, I dove headfirst straight into it.
Neptune's week, or like Neptune's 4 weeks.
Yeah, true. But really, what it was is that I pictured Neptune in a certain way, and at points I was extremely opinionated about it, especially when it came to the ponytail, because I did not see Neptune ever with a ponytail, and I just did not like the thought of the ponytail, and I think it was D-Pad who thought of the idea of an afro.
yeah,
And
sort of more fluffy hair.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a little iffy about it, but then he sent an image into Art Reference, and the guy with the afro looks like the most Aussie bloke I've ever seen.
It's number 5 on this one that I've just put up.
Yeah.
For anyone listening.
Yeah. There's D-Pads. Yeah, number 5. And after I thought about it, I really liked the idea of the afro, and I very much like the idea that the one thing Neptune really only cares about is his hair, but when he gets into the water, it'll fuzz up, and when he comes out of the swimming pool and looks at himself, all of a sudden he sees his hair's back in the afro, and he has no idea why. No idea why it's come up. It's not that he's been swimming, it's something, but he has no idea what it is. And I really liked that concept of just how he has the nice, straight, wave sort of hair, which he really cares about, but he half the time has the afro because he screws it up.
Yeah, I think it's really so like anyone that doesn't know, D-Pad does our kind of final character designs. So this is kind of more in the Earth-Chan art style than the actually the design, the like final design, not final design isn't too bad, but the kind of simplistic style that D-Pad's done them in here is probably a little bit more representative of what the characters will end up looking like in the show.
Mm.
But yeah, thank you for that, Rook. So I hope
My pleasure.
that has satisfied your Neptune fixes, everyone. I had a couple of requests to do Neptune, so that's always nice to see. So yeah, let's move on to the next thing we're going to do today, which is a little book club. So if I accidentally remove all those. So the who wants to go first with their book recommendation? Basically what I've asked everyone to do is think of a book that they think the community would enjoy, that they've liked reading, and and to like kind of explain it to you and see if they can persuade you to read it. Because it's a summer holiday for most of us, so we have lots of time, so reading is always a good thing to do. So does anyone want to start?
I don't mind starting.
Okay, cool. So if I pull up your book. Do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Well, my book is called Star Wars Heir to the Empire. It is essentially, it's quite obviously a Star Wars book.
Not canon.
But sadly, it is non-canon, so if you want to stick true to the new Star Wars story, then don't read it. But this is essentially the better book equivalent of Episode 7.
Ooh,
This
snap.
is what I think should have been the actual Star Wars story. Other than what they're doing. What they're doing is okay. It's an interesting new direction, but I feel
No,
that
it's not.
it's not great. It's not as good as the extended universe used to have it, but I won't get into the lore or fight over it or anything like that. I can't win against Disney.
Yeah, but I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can, because I'm George Lucas.
Yo, George Lucas, when are we getting that Star Wars holiday special release, please?
Oh, I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna destroy every single one of those with a hammer.
Hey, whatever happened to Jar Jar Binks?
Jar Jar's the key to all
Jar
this.
Jar Binks.
Anyway, no, this book, Heir to the Empire, was
I know.
actually written before the prequels came out. So it's not even tainted by Jar Jar. This is like raw, unfiltered Star Wars lore, for those of you who are interested in that. But if you're interested in Star Wars, or even just sci-fi in general, and you're not a huge fan of Star Wars, the feel of these Heir to the Empire books written by Timothy Zahn they're greatly written. He's a great author. They have a different feel from the movies. They're not as just action comedy oriented. There's a lot more story. I prefer the characters of the books to the series. So that's my recommendation. It's a great book. You should check it out if you're interested in sci-fi or Star Wars at all.
I've never actually watched or read any of the Star Wars things, so if this is a good place to start, I might try and do that over the summer.
It is. I think you could actually just start the Star Wars lore from this book and be fine. If you
Okay.
just go into the
I
extended
know
universe.
rough bits of
Better.
it. It's not like you can't really go through life without knowing
No.
about Star Wars.
As,
But
as long
yeah,
as you know
Yeah.
generally who the characters are, what sort of they've done so far, this book takes place like maybe 5-10 years after Episode 6. But it's on the old expanded universe timeline, which is much better. Oh yes, Solar Sailor, I completely agree with you. Admiral Thrawn, who first starts in this books, is the most awesome non-movie Star Wars character that has ever been made. He's amazing. So highly recommend these books.
That's really cool. Thank you. So, does anyone want to go next, or should I jump in?
If no one else wants to.
I'll
I
jump.
could go next.
I'll do mine.
My
first.
recommendation. Okay, fine. I was gonna say read episode 1. It's the best book.
I can't take you seriously if you're doing that voice, but sure, if you want to
This is
go.
actually how.
No, that's actually how he sounds.
Yeah, I know it is.
Coming from you is really hard to take seriously.
Yeah. The
Unfortunately.
impersonation just makes it good.
Okay, go for it then, Rabbit.
Oh, I think Jar Jar's the best character.
Rabbit. Okay.
Rabbit, you can go ahead, Rabbit.
Okay. So the best book ever is Star Wars Episode 1.
No.
That's not what was given to me.
Okay, so my book is actually technically 3 books. It's the Dragon Bards trilogy by Shirley Rousseau.
Tommy Wiseau.
No, not Tommy Wiseau. That's the room. So anyway, the Dragon Bards trilogy, it follows a deposed prince who basically finds out that he has the ability to be a dragon bard. Basically, he and his dragon that, essentially just hatches, are supposed to save their world from this evil darkness. And the first book basically ends up with him in a colony of talking otters. The second book follows more of the dragon stuff, and then the third book is the conclusion to it all. So I read these books, it must have been 15 years ago. I'm an old man, by the way. And
You're just now old man.
Yeah, exactly. So I read them over the summer, actually, as part of the summer reading program at my local library. Got some free ice cream out of it. That was nice. But
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
I found them just randomly. I'm like, this sounds like an interesting book. Picked the first one out, and it's like, okay, cool. Got to read the next one then. Read the next one, and I read the third one, and I'm like, awesome. And apparently, the books were just reprinted 2 years ago, so it's actually available again pretty easily. You can find it on Amazon, and unfortunately, not very much else.
Cool.
That
Yeah.
sounds good. Maybe
So that's
give that read.
a more so we've got a sci-fi one and a fantasy one so far.
Well, we got another
We go
sci-fi
for
one.
non-fiction.
Star Wars Episode 3. Best movie ever.
Well, I'll go next, and then we can just fill out the top row. So mine is more sci-fi, but it's less sci-fi than Star Wars, I would say. So mine is
Can't
called
get less sci-fi.
Even Adam. It's one of my favourite books that I've read in like recent years, and it's sci-fi in that it's set like maybe 20 years in the future, but after basically some massive medical discoveries. So the idea is that right now, like in this time, about like 2015, 2016 actually, some massive medical discoveries about gene manipulation and cloning and creating life from absolutely nothing was made like underground in the science community, and it was kept underground for like 10-15 years until they made like a breakthrough about how they could use it to basically completely eradicate almost all illnesses from living humans, like edit the DNA of living humans. And at that point, they like went to the government and were like, look, this is worth a lot of money, so if you don't prosecute us, we'll let you use it. And instantly became like really rich, and it follows the story of the daughter of the woman who made the discovery. And she doesn't really know anything about like the dark side of her mother's work. She's a really relatable character, the main character. She's kind of silly, kind of clueless. The way the book's written almost in first person, it follows her thoughts. And one of my favourite parts about the book is that it follows like how her thoughts trail off when she's trying not to think about something. So when something comes up that she doesn't want to think about, she starts thinking about apples or shoes or the fact she's meant to be doing homework or something. So it has kind of like a quite homely feel to it. So if anyone likes kind of like, it's not really a medical drama, but it's sci-fi and there's a little bit of romance in it and creating new life and sort of cyborgs, but they're not really cyborgs because they're entirely flesh. But yeah, if anybody likes that kind of thing, I recommend it. It's really well written, and there is a sequel, I believe, but I haven't read that.
Huh. Alright. Sounds cool.
Cool later.
Who wants to go next?
I can go. I'm
can.
George Lucas.
Kata?
God damn it.
So mine's not a sci-fi. Luckily, it's based off a true story, mainly very recently actually. It's a book called A Street Cat Named Bob. It was a bestseller recently, a couple of years ago, I think. So basically, it follows the story of James Bowen, a heroin addict, who finds a ginger street cat on his doorstep, and how Bob helps him overcome his addiction and get a better life, pretty much. So this book really helped me personally understand how a way to overcome heroin addict is to find something to care about a lot. In this case, it is Bob.
What do you want? You got a problem you want to tell us about?
You got
like, are you in rehab or like?
Yeah, he's a recovering heroin addict.
But what do you find
What about you?
relatable about this?
Oh, no, I think it's just the relatability of like
Yeah.
overcoming
Yeah.
a struggle by finding something that you love.
Well,
Like
Yeah.
animals can help with
I'm
a lot
not
of
gonna-
things like that.
Not gonna have a comment on that.
Relatable because both of them have a cat in them.
Like you don't have to have a comment on it. That's fine.
Moving on. This book really can give you, make you restore your faith in humanity, pretty much, by following how the Bob and James interacts with the people of London. Hey, Flower.
I remember. It was like 7 in the morning and I was at my grandparents' house and he was like sitting on BBC Breakfast talking about his book. I like remember it. But yeah.
You might just run into him on the street.
He was a British hero for like 2 weeks, then we forgot about him.
A British hero.
2 weeks.
No, British hero in.
That's what happens with people that go on BBC Breakfast. Anyway. Thank you for that, Cassie.
Yeah.
So a
So
nice
there's-
wholesome book. I do recommend
It's
it. I
a
have
whole-
read it. It's beautiful.
Real
so-
wholesome. There's other series, there's a whole series of Bob books. And there is also a movie if you don't wanna read and watch instead. You can go watch the movie. But read the book.
Series are better than the movies, so I'd understand.
And watch out for the next edition, next book in the series coming out at around October this year.
The story of how he falls back into addiction and then has to get another cat, or
I hope not. Anyway.
I
guys,
hope
what
not
about-
too. But is that?
Like I will delete you.
Really,
Cannot delete the deleter.
Anyway,
I will
hate
put
to
on a
cut you
witch
short,
hat and
Cassie,
delete
but
you.
We've got other
yeah.
things to get through. So,
A good thing to step away from sci-fi, guys.
Link.
I thought it would fit, given that this is a space server.
so I'll step away from sci-fi even more. So the book that I've been reading through lately, is called Project Future. Really good book. Basically, it's the story of how Walt Disney World came to be. So you get to hear a lot about some of the different behind. My time up.
No.
But you get to hear a lot about how Disney World came to be, all the different stuff that went on behind the scenes. Like there's a lot of land purchasing deals and fake companies and all sorts of different stuff that had to go on for this like big thing to happen. And I think right now I'm about halfway through the book, but it's really cool just reading through it and seeing all of the different steps that were involved in making it happen.
Cool. So that's more of like a non-fiction kind of history book. That's cool.
It's more definitely nonfiction.
I'm looking at the covers of these books and I just see that Bob is Bob just stands out so much.
One of these is not like the others.
Well, I'm
It's a
sorry.
wholesome, cute book.
I'm too
It's
busy
better than
trying to
all
sell
the
my
other
stories
bad.
to Disney.
Empty spot
So
on the screen.
last but not least, Brooke.
So, like comms, mine's not even really books, but those who know me, I am completely addicted to the Warhammer fantasy universe,
Pardon me.
Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and really, for me to get into the whole Warhammer thing was through the lore and books, reading through them. There's just so much lore in Warhammer that isn't really explored to in depth than in a lot of other books or movies or something, because this thing has an entire franchise behind it. And the greatest thing with Warhammer, as you can see there with it zooming up, is the greatest thing about it is that if you are bored of the books and bored of all the lore, you have an entire game and an entire community to play with the tabletop experience. There's even a lot more video games of Warhammer 2 now, with stuff like Warhammer Vermintide and Total War Warhammer. But really, it's just if you are a real big lore fanatic, if you love everything fantasy, if you love Warhammer 40k, or just really want to get into something Warhammer, it's I'd say get into it as quickly as possible because it's really just the community's great, the books are great, the lore's great, everything about it is great. Age of Sigmar sort of ruined a bit of things when it came to Warhammer Fantasy, but rounding off with everything, it's just a really good. I can't say anything better about it because I can't express really how much I love it.
Awesome.
And yeah,
So we've got a really wide range of books. That's nice. So
Yeah.
whatever your fancy, I challenge you all, take your pick over the summer, pick one of those books, try and read
Captain's still the best.
it, expand your mind a bit. Reading helps your vocab and stuff, and just, yeah, let's see.
And you might
Yeah,
get
if-
free ice cream.
And if you
Yeah.
if you read one of these and really like it, then whoever recommended it, you can chat to them about it on the server. So,
For all you kiddies out there, Bob has children's picture books as well.
oh,
if you want to, I will say if you want to save money, don't go with Warhammer. So it's very very expensive hobby to get into.
So,
Nice.
a street cat named Bob, there's a children's version of that book? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it is a children's version and a picture book version.
I mean,
What's
Picture
the
book version,
boy named James?
where
James
he
is
is
addicted
taking-
to heroin.
Yes.
anyway, before we get into that, let's move on because we have a couple more segments to get through, and we talked a lot longer about books than I thought we would be able to. So that's lovely.
Also, for all you cat haters, screw you, go read the book.
I'll watch my movies instead.
For
There
the
is a
Emperor,
Bob, there is a Bob
Sigmar.
movie. Go,
Okay.
there's a Bob movie. Go watch
Right.
that.
So
For the Emperor.
the next segment is one I have called Globe Trotting. So basically what I wanted to do here is every week I wanted to get someone on the team who's visited somewhere like cool in the earth, in the world. Obviously we don't really have any astronauts on the team yet, sadly. Anyway.
bring you on.
So, and just chat about like somewhere that they've been on the Earth that's cool, and just appreciate Earth Chan for a few minutes. So, I'm starting off by talking about somewhere I went when I was quite little, which is Monument Valley. So, there's pictures up on screen in like a little slideshow. So Monument Valley, also known as the Monument of the Rocks in the native language of the Navja, who are the tribe that kind of inhabited the area, is a big sort of... It's not really a valley, it's kind of flat with like big sandstone structures, so it makes it into a valley. And it's on the Colorado Plateau on the border of Arizona and Utah. And it's characterized by these basically sandstone pillars, and they're called butts. And
Buttes.
They're buttes. But yeah.
we call them
So-
butts, okay?
Buttes.
It's huge.
It's
Bloody
butte.
buttes, mate.
I'll get your mind out of the gutter.
And
It's butte. Not but Montana.
I've never heard that it said buttes. We always said butts in geography. Oh well.
Been learned.
It's a butte, mate.
And so the tallest of these is like 1,000 feet tall. So they're very, very, very tall. And it's overall, it's a really nice place for photography because you've got like blue skies usually and like red sand, and there's still some grass and stuff. So as you can see, it's just like, it's an incredibly picturesque area. It's really nice to visit if you want to get like a feel for the West, but you can't deal with too much heat because it doesn't usually go above 32 degrees, so it's not too bad. The maximum is about 38, only in like the middle of summer. And also if you like snow, it does get snow quite frequently in the winter, and it doesn't generally go below minus 18, so you're not going to totally freeze. It's very
This, of
popular.
course, is in cold speak. In American, that's like
80s, 90s.
yeah, 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it
too.
doesn't get above the high 90s, doesn't get below 0, -10 Fahrenheit, about.
Sorry, you're gonna have to explain to us Australians what is snow.
Solid water.
powdery white stuff that
It's-
people confuse with cocaine, but
Sol-
it's not.
Solid fluffy water, basically.
You mean water?
Wait,
slushy?
am I gonna need to call Bob for this?
Timmy, once we find him.
Talk
Let's
to
not
me.
do the drugs. So,
Anyway,
Is this where
It's
you?
very-
Is this where you
Drugs.
bury Timmy?
it's very popular in lots of forms of media, in like westerns, and just it's featured in quite a lot of video games, but just because it's so picturesque. And the thing I remember the most about when I visited it was just this kind of serene atmosphere that just like surrounds the whole place. And actually most of the Ninjago territory, because it's in one of their national parks, it's incredible just to walk around, drive around, because everything else is so tall, but it's so peaceful. So yeah, it's one of those really calm places on Earth, and I really recommend if anyone gets the chance to definitely visit. So yeah.
Leaving the house. What's that?
Yeah.
Work.
Hopefully next week on this segment we will have Pecan talking about his trip to Iceland, which will be really cool. So you can look forward to that.
yeah, Iceland's got some great
I was
natural geography.
disappointed a couple years ago when I found out Iceland doesn't have any ice.
Greenland has ice. The biggest mix-up.
Yeah.
In
It's,
his-
it's,
It was done on
actually know
purpose.
the history. Yeah, I know the history behind that.
well, how about you talk about it next week, because we
Yeah.
have to move on. So
Yep.
the last segment, which I'm sure you've seen, or maybe not, I don't know if it's escaped into the normal channels, is quite a lot of bees. So
bees.
You like
Yes.
jazz?
Please.
yes, Rabbit.
According
So
to all the
Um,
we need to
I
steal the
want to
human.
have like a 5-10 minute segment every week where we talk about some really simple things we can do to help Earth Chan, so then everyone can make a difference and it'll all be great. So the first one that's quite simple because it's summer is actually helping the bees. So as you've probably seen online, and you've probably seen me talking about as well, we're killing off all our bees at the moment in the world. So we have destroyed 97% of bees' habitats, which is
Fuck. Wait, really?
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh.
97% of wildflower witch meadows have been destroyed in the last 60 years. So we really need to make a difference,
Unbelievable.
because they only have 3% of the places that they used to live in left. So even just planting a couple of flowers in a flower pot, like outside your house or on a balcony or just something, will make a massive difference, because that could be the difference between life or death for like a little colony of bees that lives near you. And I mean, bees help with pollination for everything. Like, we wouldn't have a food source without bees, so we really need to keep them alive. The other main problem for bees is pesticides. So with world food shortages, and as we try and get more economical, we put more pesticides on, and when bees try and pollinate, some of these pesticides kill them off. So that's not good. You don't want dead bees, so as they're struggling to breed anyway. So there's a couple of different things you can do to help bees. Basically, the simplest one is if you Google up online, like, how do I help bees? A bit like with the Save the Internet, it will just give you an email template, and then you can just email your council or your government or whatever, like, please don't put pesticides, thanks. And even that will like make a little bit of a difference, because it might make someone rethink and go, people actually care about bees, maybe I should do something, otherwise I'm not going to be re-elected. And then also being careful, like, what kind of foods you buy. It's not necessarily an option for everyone to be totally organic, but there are places online where you can look up what foods and what stores tend to buy from places that use pesticides that kill bees. So if you have the chance to make a difference in places like England, where we have tons of shops everywhere, like, it's so easy to make the change. So things like that. And then the last really easy one to do in the summer is plant some flowers, as I mentioned earlier. So I have a really short list here of flowers and plants that bees really like, but there's loads online if you look it up. So lavender is great. It smells nice. You can put it around your house and like have natural perfumes and stuff. It doesn't really need much watering. Even if you forget about it for like a month and it doesn't rain, it won't dry, because lavender is used to living on dry soil, so it's really like easy to look after. It flowers in summer, so that's a really easy one. Apples and crabapple trees, bees really like, so they give you apples. It's a little bit more of a long-term one, but if anyone's moving house, I don't know. Ivy people tend to cut back because it's a massive climbing plant, but it's actually really, really good for bees and pollinators when it flowers. So if you're clearing out ivy, just think of the bees. Snowdrops in the winter, they're a sign of spring. They're some of bees' favourite flowers. The bulbs are really easy to plant. They only flower for a few weeks. They don't take up that much space, but they can really make a difference to bees as they're like moving into the spring. And the last one is Phalacia, which is basically, it's not as well known, but it's bees' favourite flower ever. And it's actually really easy to grow. If you just buy some seeds and chuck them on the ground, they'll grow because it's a really hardy plant. So I think that's pretty cool. So all it takes is a simple Google search and you can help some bees. But anyway, I asked everyone to come up with a bee fact to finish off. So, Kata, do you want to start?
According to all known laws of baby.
Oh boy.
What is your
Hey, that was
serious?
my one.
Nah. Fun fact, when a bee finds a good source of nectar, it flies back to the hive and shows its friends where the nectar source is by doing a dance, also known as the waggle dance.
Great.
And according to all known laws of baby.
No. Come.
All right. Well, I didn't know this. I actually found this kind of interesting that the bee is the only insect that produces a food that we eat sort of naturally. I know there are some people that just eat bugs because they want to, but the honeybee is actually the only insect that produces a food that people eat on a regular basis.
Funny, because I know the exact website you found that from.
I mean, if everyone's researching the same
Bees.com.
thing.
Oh,
Or
did you
drink,
know that
because-
bees can be trained to locate buried landmines?
I did know that, actually.
That's
Huh,
cool.
Yeah.
See, bees are super useful. We need to save them.
Yeah.
Rabbit. What?
Even though according to all known laws of baby.
Don't you even.
Rabbit.
Well, I found out that the largest bee species in the world is actually, ironically, known as Megachile Pluto. And it was once thought to be extinct, but they rediscovered it in the 1980s. It's like an inch and a half long. That thing's huge.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Sounds delicious.
Really interesting.
That's slightly worrying. Link.
Mine, interestingly enough, I know that Kat has been joking about the laws of aviation thing. So
According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bee.
Catter, please.
that law is actually from decades old, and it explains the flight of large objects such as like airplanes and birds. But it doesn't work when it's applied to small objects like bees. Modern laws of aviation, however, do explain the flight of bees.
Good to
Nice
know.
movie.
Good to know.
Good to know.
Good to know. Thank you. And
Yes,
last but not
theory.
least, Rook.
Yeah, so my fun bee fact is that the commercial honeybee, they are not actually native to Australia. They were in the early 1820s. The honeybee was brought to Australia aboard the ship Isabella. She arrived on the Australian waters in 1822, and the honeybees adapted so successfully to Australia that other species were introduced from Italy, Yugoslavia, North America, and a couple of other countries around Europe and the Americas.
Cool.
Cool.
So now you have bees.
Yeah, and they worked. Unlike bloody birds and foxes and everything else brought by England. God damn it.
Yeah, we're
Yeah, they bought Australians. What's wrong with them?
we're sort of sorry about that. But anyway, yeah, plants and flowers save the bees, and that will help
Kill the
our planet.
K-toads.
And sue the humans.
Slaves to the white man?
So that's all we have time for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. Up next time, just to get you excited, we will be talking about Mercury as our main thing. We will have Film Club. Pecan will then be returning
Fight Club.
from Film Club, not Fight Club, to talk about his
Number
Iceland
one.
trip on globetrotting, as I said. and I will be talking probably about compost, and just some easy steps about waste and
Luckily, I
recycling.
won't be there.
Compost. That's when I'm
Thank
a
you.
post.
Compost.
Some
Tom
cats
makes
do.
an announcement.
Compost, Jesus.
Oh, you know it's going to be a good podcast when we already have puns a week in advance. Anyway, so thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Kata, Con, Rabbit, Link, and Rook for joining me.
Yeah.
And meaning I don't
Anytime.
just
Don't
talk to
forget me,
myself.
George.
Go fuck off.
I want to remind everyone listening, go get some water. It's hot. It's summer for most of us. Sorry, Australians.
Winter.
So hydrate yourself. Keep breathing. Do your best
Hydration
for
is important.
yourself and the Earth-chan.
Yeah, don't forget to breathe.
Stay
That's
fast,
important.
eat gas.
Goodbye from us
You are
here at
now
Soul
manually
Studios.
breathing.
We'll see you next
And
week.
don't forget,
Don't forget, Earth-chan's
Mercury
not
is a trap.
no.
Oh,